Great. All right. Well, welcome. I work at the Green Bank Observatory, and I'm the lead PI on the First2 network. And to start us off, I just want to make sure that everybody here is well versed in what we are and kind of why we're here together today. So first of all, the First2 network is daggone it, made up of different groups. There are 210 students that are members of our network, 170 faculty that are members of our network. 59 of the 210 students are really leaders within our network. So they are at your institutions spread across the state doing great work to advance student success from their perspective. And then there are 107 folks in our network that classify as other, and I'm one of those. I'm part of a nonprofit organization, the Green Bank Observatory, so I fall into the other category. And there are 7, that's the 7 that's down there, First2 campuses that are either funded to have campus clubs, to do bridge experiences and things like that through the network, to do change work with our network right now. And this is a showing a view of our different partners. So on the higher education front, there on the left, you can see our higher education partners. These are our campuses. We have industry partners as well. You can see a great representation there from the chemistry industries as well as Toyota. In the nonprofit sector, we've introduced a lot of new members through the West Virginia Jobs Network, where we're trying to connect our students to jobs in the First2 network. We have government participants and other organizations like the West Virginia Science Teachers Association, like NASA Space Grant, West Virginia Embry, and the Health Sciences and Technology Academy, as well as the West Virginia Academy of Science that helps sponsor our dissemination efforts. So to be clear with everyone, I hope we all are here today because we have a shared aim, and that is that we want to improve retention for our STEM students through to graduation rate. And, there are many great reasons why retention of the students that are enrolled in our higher education institutions is a good idea and is a big deal. There have been lots of reports of late of our young folks leaving West Virginia, our talent leaving West Virginia. And if we can particularly focus on retention of our first generation and underrepresented students, we're more likely that they may stay in the state because they are majoring in STEM because they want to improve their community. That's one of the main reasons why they go into a STEM field. It's very cost effective for higher education institutions. It's more cost effective than continually trying to recruit. And we know recruiting is really tough right now for our higher education institutions. We also have a new funding bill for higher education institutions that passed this past year that is really going to incentivize us to improve student success at our institutions. So this is great timing. And then the main reason for the NSF funding that we got is that across the nation, representation in the STEM fields is not reflective of the diversity of our population in the country. And we know from, we just know from numerous studies and just lots of different ways that having a diverse team, having diversity in STEM fields increases STEM innovation more so than having the best and brightest individual working on something. Having a diverse team is going to result in greater STEM innovation. So this is a national goal for our country, and it is a complex problem to tackle. And so that's why First2 Network was formed. So as a point of definition, you're going to hear us talk about First2 students a lot because we're the First2 network. And I wanted to tell you all that First2 students are all high leverage students at our institution. So these are our undergraduate students who are rural, first generation, underrepresented minorities, Pell Grant eligible, that with a little extra attention and attention within what we do in our institutions, these students will show, much greater retention. So we call these students high leverage students. And they deserve our attention because our institutions, even with all the things we have in place, can fail our high leverage students, rural, first gen, underrepresented, and Pell eligible students. So why are we focusing on this group of students, First2 students? I just wanted to show you that, we rely not only on the published literature, but also on our own data. And this is some data from West Virginia University looking at engineering students and how they succeed semester by semester over the course of their time there. And I want you to only pay attention to the aqua wedge at the top of this very busy graph. So as we start out with engineering students, of course, not very many of them graduate. But by the end of semester 16, you can see there that many of our engineering students leave college. Okay, so this wedge over time, we're showing that engineering majors, not only do they leave STEM fields for other fields, but they leave college. This is for all engineering majors. I want you to pay attention to what happens now to that top wedge only. If I show you the proportion of rural first generation students, so these are rural and first generation students, and as the graph transitions here, you can see that a lot of first generation students, the proportion is higher for leaving college altogether. And so this is a group where if we can change some of our institutional practices, we can have a high impact on this group and really improve our retention of STEM students overall. So I'm going to leave you with that as just sort of setting a context as why we're together today. We're interested in improving student success, and we're focusing on these high leverage students where we think we can make a big difference. And we're really glad that you're here sharing your desire to improve their success as well. All righty, so I'm going to move on in this presentation to discuss a little bit about what First2 is doing. And honestly, I don't have to belabor this because y'all did such a fabulous job. I am just tickled with what happened this morning. So let's see if I can get this advancing here. It doesn't want to. About that. All right. Oh, there we go. So our main goal as the First2 network, this great group of wonderful folks, is twofold. And one is that we are all interested in improving the success of our students, our marginalized STEM students, our high leverage STEM students, by improving their success. And we use high impact practices that we have either developed on our own or have already been documented through a substantial research base. And they fall into these categories. So you see academics, faculty practices, staff and institutional practices that we can test and use that would improve the academic success. We have fit and finance areas where we're building peer communities and developing STEM faculty, staff, and advisors relationships with students. You heard a lot about that earlier today. One of our areas focuses on that STEM pathway through research experiences, and a new area that we're working on, which is workforce development, to connect our students to workforce opportunities once they get that bachelor's degree. And then leadership. So elevating student voice. I know you all know this as well or better than I do, how important it is that our students' lived experience and their ideas for how to change our systems will really make a difference in our efforts. And then secondly, we want to take these high impact practices that we have improved and learned how to improve and scale those to create lasting institutional change. that will go beyond our grant funding, which we hope will be able to continue in the future. But we want this to be sustainable. So those areas that I just mentioned are connected to our primary hypotheses as to what we think, if these statements are true, will occur. So as you know, our aim is to double the graduation rate of our first 2 students, our rural first gen underrepresented minority Pell eligible students, from 30% to 60%. And we're talking about our STEM students here. And we think that if those statements on the right are true, that we will reach this aim. So these are called our primary drivers that drive our efforts in achieving our aim. So I'll just leave those there for 30 seconds for you to take a look at, and you will see them again, not only in our face-to-face conference as well, if you can attend that. So as an institutional team, wow, what a fantastic start looking at the roster that y'all presented in your sessions this morning. Ideally, folks who can serve on an institutional team and should include these 6 areas right here. So what we have learned is it's not just the work and job of our STEM faculty that will improve our student success, but that if in the realm of fit and finances and academics, we need a broad institutional team that includes somebody from student services and advising, somebody who has a say on how to allocate resources on your campus. Definitely, we want students. And so student leaders are who you heard from today. And student leaders are those students who meet the first 2 definition, who join in a leadership capacity to help drive institutional change through the ideas that they come up with and instigate at your campus. And so we would like to see first 2 student leaders on those institutional teams. And it looks like you're doing aces in that regard. We view institutional teams as a core group at your institution that will facilitate or steer the efforts at your institution to improve in those areas that I listed before and to scale those in your institution as well. So what would happen at the institutional level would be for you to define for your own institution why you lose STEM students. What's going on at your institution? It might be slightly different in between our institutions. Number 2, to listen to students. That firsthand voice is incredibly powerful and important, and tell us what we need to know. To review the current systems that you have in place. What are you doing already? We heard some great successes and ideas this morning. Look at those systems and what can we do with those systems to make them even better to improve student success. So we also would like you to take a look at the work we've done. We've done a lot of work in the last 4 years on high impact practices. We've been testing ideas, and you can review our body of knowledge to help you out there. And hopefully to define at least one improvement, whether that be in advising, in STEM faculty practices, what they are, that you will test as a team and get others at your institution to test, which includes planning it, trying it, measuring it, and then deciding what you want to adapt, if you need to adapt it to try it again, or if you love what you're doing there and your measurements show it and you want to keep it going and scale it. And then the main thing as a network is share what we are learning at our institutions with each other. That will scale what's working across all of us, which is good for all of our students. It's good for our state. It's good for our institutions to learn from each other. So we appreciate your collaborative spirit. Institutional teams are currently asked to do a few things, and this fits right in with either an MOU if you've got one with us, or what was stated in that request for funding that happened when you guys became a campus over this past year. So the testing of change ideas, as we call it, are a lot of the ideas you heard about this morning. And I just want to reiterate to you that if you're running a campus club, that is a change idea. We think that building that community, having students lead it and provide that mentorship for each other is a change idea. And how to improve that and make it better is something as an institutional team that you're doing already. If you are engaged in a summer immersive research experience, that is a change idea that we have introduced that will jumpstart students' sense of belonging and fit within their campus. And so how do we improve that? And then there's additional improvement work that you heard about this morning and more that you can build on or advance your own ideas. We know that institutional teams are from the RFP or MOUs that you'll meet 4 times a year, and hopefully at least 1 or 2 of those times per year would be places where you can gather together like we are today and share and learn from each other and plan for the future. As an institutional team, we want you to manage your first 2 efforts there. And just kind of keep that work moving on schedule. So in your meetings, how are you advancing that work forward? You're not going to do it all in 4 meetings, but you're gathering information and propelling your work forward in between those meetings. So we see you more as not all of the folks at your institution that might be engaged in testing something out, but as the group that's going to lead, advocate, push, and accelerate that across your campus. Benefits of participating in the First2 network and in this shared learning network are many. And these are really not in any particular order, just in the order that came into our brains as we were doing this. And so you can take a look at those. But number 1 is contributing to the success of students statewide and beyond, and gaining the opportunity to share what you're learning and to learn from others through our conferences and other things. And First2 Network curates these materials so that you've got access to them after the fact. We hope that First2 Network will result in, and we are actively pursuing, new funding and visibility opportunities for our work. There's institutional incentive because retention equals dollars. It costs so much more to recruit new students than it does to retain the ones you've got. So they're both important, but retention is financially a win-win for your institution. The student-led initiatives. Student-led initiatives are a huge bang for your buck. And I'm not talking here about the fact that they're not paid as much as a faculty person is paid. I'm talking about their influence. Students have influence on other students and on me and on you. And as these student-led initiatives, I think, are among the most powerful things that are going on. And how do we really scale those things and make them work for a greater and greater number of our First2 students in our campuses? So those are some. Down at the bottom, you'll see one that's in italics. We do not have answers to this, but we think that that this work that you're doing is important enough that our institutions need to recognize and reward this work as part of your promotion and tenure track, if that is part of what your career trajectory is. We also have funding right now in this next year and somewhat beyond in the 6th year. We have funding to help support some of this change work. We know that that's important. It has to be financially supported, and we heard you loud and clear this morning. So that's what I wanted to share with you. This PowerPoint is readable. It's sort of a document that we've put together, and we want you to have it after the fact as well. So we'll make sure that this is shared with you.